Have you ever felt the earth shatter beneath your feet in the blink of an eye? That's exactly how I felt when I walked into my own home one Tuesday afternoon and found my wife, Melissa, tangled in the sheets with another man. My name is Maxwell, and I'm 39 years old, living in a quiet suburb of California. I never imagined that I'd be here, sharing this story with you. But here we are. Before I go on with my story, I want to thank all the LC subscribers for your constant support. Your comments, likes, encouragement, and advice are a pillar of strength to so many like me. I hope this story resonates with some of you and that it helps others who have found themselves in a similar position. So, grab a seat and let me take you through what happened when betrayal tore my life apart. Melissa and I have been together for over a decade, but legally married for 7 years. On the surface, we were the perfect couple. We had a comfortable life, nice house, good careers, the kind of life people envy. We were the couple everyone pointed to as a model of stability. I worked hard. Melissa had her dream job as an interior designer, and we often spent our weekends at barbecues with the neighbors or hanging out with friends. Our social media accounts were filled with happy moments, carefully curated to show how great our life was. But beneath all the smiles and filtered pictures, there was a storm brewing that I never saw coming. It started with small things, little changes that didn't seem important at first, but looking back, were warning signs I chose to ignore. Melissa began working late more often. She'd come home tired, almost too tired to talk, always claiming that the workload at her design firm was overwhelming. She'd get up early on weekends to go to client meetings, something that was unusual before. She even started wearing a new perfume, one I hadn't gifted her, one I didn't recognize. At first, I chalked it up to the stress of her booming career. After all, she'd always wanted to make a name for herself in the design world, and her ambition was something I admired. Maybe I should have noticed sooner, but when you're in love, you sometimes turn a blind eye to things that don't quite sit right. I certainly wasn't the type of person to jump to conclusions or confront issues head on. I believed in giving people space, trusting the person I loved. Then came that Tuesday, a day I'd never forget. I decided to surprise Melissa with her favorite takeout. I thought it would be a nice gesture to break up her hectic work week. As I pulled into our driveway, I noticed her car parked outside, which was unusual for the time of day. She usually got home around 6, but today it was only a little after 4. I walked into the house, expecting to hear her in the kitchen or upstairs in her office, but the place was eerily quiet. There were no sounds of her usual chatter or the sound of her favorite music playing from the living room. A wave of unease washed over me, but I pushed it aside. Maybe she was in the bathroom or taking a nap, but then I heard it. A muffled sound came from our bedroom. It was almost like a whisper, followed by a soft giggle. My heart skipped a beat, but I brushed it off as a figment of my imagination. I placed the takeout on the kitchen counter, deciding to investigate. The moment I opened the door to our bedroom, everything froze. It was like time itself had stopped. There she was, Melissa, tangled in the sheets with a man I didn't recognize. His face was buried in her neck, and she was looking up at him with a smile I'd never seen before. They froze, both of them. My heart dropped. The world felt like it was spinning out of control. Max? Melissa stammered, scrambling to pull the sheet around her. Her face turned pale as she tried to sit up, her eyes wide with panic. The man, who looked to be in his late 20s, muscular and disheveled, leaped out of bed and scrambled for his clothes, not a single word escaping his mouth. I stood there, frozen in the doorway. I wanted to scream, I wanted to run away, but all I could do was stand there, heartbroken, trying to comprehend what I was seeing. How could this be happening? Matt, this isn't what it looks like, Melissa said, her voice shaky, but her words felt empty, ludicrous even. How is this not what it looked like? My blood boiled. Every lie, every excuse, every word she'd ever said to me felt like a slap in the face. How many times had she looked me in the eye, told me she loved me, and promised me there was no one else? How many times had I trusted her, believed her, and opened my heart? I started, but I couldn't finish the sentence. I turned around and walked out of the room, my heart shattering with every step. I didn't even stay in the house that night. I grabbed my jacket, slammed the door behind me, and drove to my best friend's place. I didn't care about anything anymore. My whole life, everything I believed in, had just collapsed. That night, Melissa flooded my phone with calls and texts, begging me to listen, to understand. She apologized, saying it was a moment of weakness, that her job was stressful and that she needed space. Space. That word, the same one she'd used when she was working late, when I'd asked if something was going on. The same word that had all along been a cover for her betrayal. I ignored every message. How could I possibly listen to her after everything? In the days that followed, I went through a whirlwind of emotions. The rage, the confusion, the deep paralyzing pain of betrayal. My friend tried to console me, telling me to move on, to forget her, but my mind was a storm. I couldn't escape it. It replayed over and over in my head. The look on her face when she saw me, the horror in her eyes, and the raw truth of what she had done. Then came the day my friend gave me some advice that would change everything. He said, "Dude, you deserve better. Don't let her think she can walk all over you like this. Let her know she messed with the wrong guy." That's when the seed was planted. Revenge. I hadn't considered it at first. I wasn't a vengeful person, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that this wasn't just about getting back at her. It was about making her feel the same shame and humiliation I was feeling. She had to understand the weight of her actions, and I would make sure the world knew about it too. But first, I needed a plan. Revenge wasn't just about anger. It had to be precise, calculated, and most importantly, public. I wanted Melissa to feel every bit of the pain she had inflicted on me, and I wanted the entire neighborhood to witness it. I spent the first few days after the discovery in a blur. I stayed at my friend Jake's place, barely able to eat or sleep. My mind raced with ideas, but I had to wait for the right moment. I had to plan everything down to the smallest detail. This wasn't going to be some petty revenge, it had to be epic. It was Jake who gave me the push I needed. One evening, after I had spent hours staring at the wall, barely speaking, he finally pulled me out of my funk. "Max, you've got to do something. You deserve better than this. She doesn't get to do this to you and walk away unscathed." He paused, letting his words sink in. "You need to show her that you're not the guy she can walk all over, and you can't do it quietly. You need to make a statement." His words hit me hard. I had been trying to keep things civil, trying to act like I could just move on, but deep down I knew I couldn't. And then it hit me. Revenge. Not just any revenge. I would make sure Melissa would never forget what she had done to me. I would make sure the entire neighborhood knew the truth. The first step was making sure she didn't suspect anything. Melissa had moved out temporarily to give me some space, as she put it. She still sent me texts, emails, trying to guilt trip me into forgiving her. She was desperate to get back to normal, but I had no intention of taking her back. In fact, I was working on something far more significant than any apologies she could offer. I started by hiring a landscaping company to completely clear out the front lawn. It wasn't a big job, but I needed it to be perfect. The company didn't ask too many questions when I told them I wanted the lawn leveled and clear just the way I liked it. What they didn't know was that it was all part of my grand plan. Once the lawn was prepared, I reached out to a friend of mine who ran a printing business. He was the kind of guy who could get anything done, and I needed him for something special. After explaining what I wanted, he quickly got to work on a massive banner. It wasn't just any banner, it was a public declaration. In bold red letters, it read, "Melissa, I hope your new boyfriend enjoys the house as much as you enjoyed him in our bed." Subtle? Absolutely not. But effective? You bet. The banner was the heart of my revenge. It would be impossible to miss. I could already picture Melissa's face when she saw it. But I wasn't done. I needed to make sure that this moment would be as humiliating as possible. I thought about how the whole neighborhood would react. This was going to be a spectacle, and I needed to give them a show. I called in a favor from another friend, this time a photographer who had access to some photos of Melissa I had discovered on her phone. They weren't explicit, but they were damning. Selfies of her and the gym rat, taking romantic photos in various places, some of them in positions that left no room for misunderstanding. I printed out these photos, all of them, and arranged for them to be mounted on stakes, like twisted art pieces, to line the front yard. They weren't crude or graphic, but they spoke volumes about the affair. They told a story, and that story was about betrayal. Next, I made sure to add some lighthearted yet mocking touches to the display. A dozen lawn flamingos, each holding signs with some of the absurd excuses Melissa had used. "It's not what it looks like. I was lonely. We can work through this." Those signs, paired with the photos, would drive the point home. I had set everything up perfectly. I was ready. I didn't feel nervous. Instead, I felt empowered. This was the final step. I had been torn apart by her actions, but now it was time to rebuild my self-esteem and show her that no one walks all over me. Saturday morning came and the day was perfect. The sun was shining, the breeze was light, and the stage was set for Melissa's public humiliation. I watched from my window as she pulled up to the house. Her car slowed as she took in the scene, her eyes scanning the yard, her face shifting from confusion to shock, then to complete horror, as the full impact of what was happening hit her. She slammed on the brakes and got out of the car. Her face flushed, her voice already shrieking, "Matt, what the hell is this?" I stepped out onto the porch slowly, feeling a calmness wash over me. I wasn't angry anymore. This was just business. "Just a little farewell gift, Melissa," I said, my tone flat, matter of fact. To commemorate our time together. She was crying now, shouting at me, pleading, "Take it down. This is humiliating. Please take it down." "Humiliating?" I scoffed. "You mean like walking in on my wife, cheating on me in our bed?" I let the words hang in the air. "You're lucky I didn't put up a billboard." Her face crumpled. She was a mess, broken, defeated. She tried to gather herself, to make excuses, to claim she was sorry, but I wasn't hearing any of it. She had lost the right to explain herself. As she broke down in front of me, the neighbors began stepping out of their homes. Some pretended to water their plants, others walked their dogs, but it was clear that they were all there for one reason: to watch Melissa's shame unfold. They whispered, pointed, and took in the scene. It was the exact reaction I'd been hoping for. Justice had arrived. "Please, Max, take this down," she begged again. "I'll leave, I'll go. Just take this down." "No, Melissa," I said, shaking my head. "Not until the lease is up. And don't bother coming back for your stuff. It's already packed and waiting at your mom's." She turned and ran back to her car, her sobs echoing in the quiet afternoon. I watched as she sped away, tires screeching against the pavement. The neighbors, now satisfied with the drama, started to retreat back into their homes. And I stood there, on the porch, feeling a sense of satisfaction I hadn't felt in weeks. The pain of betrayal had finally been acknowledged, and Melissa had been forced to face the consequences of her actions. As the days went on, Melissa sent me messages, apologizing, begging for counseling, and offering anything to make it right. But I was done. The divorce papers were signed, and she faded from my life. I heard rumors through the grapevine that she and Gym Rat Guy didn't last. Apparently, she tried the same tricks on him, but he wasn't having it either. I guess karma had a funny way of working things out. As for me, I moved on. I sold the house and started traveling, meeting new people. I found someone who valued honesty, loyalty, and mutual respect, everything Melissa had never understood. But every now and then, I'd drive past that old house, and as I passed the front lawn, I couldn't help but smile. I had stood up for myself. And if Melissa ever drove past that house again, I hoped she'd remember exactly why she'd never be welcome back. Was I too petty? Should I have forgiven her? Or what do you think? Well, I will be in the comments, and although I have already moved on, I would love to see other alternate options you would have taken if you were in my shoes. Don't forget to like, drop your opinions in the comments. Love and light. Cheers!